What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why on earth the bulls have the edge in the market and some very important things that are going on, especially going into tomorrow as we have more economic data coming out. But before I begin down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. In my video from yesterday, I mentioned that there's likely a bounce coming for tomorrow, and tomorrow is today. Basically, I said this 23 hours ago, there's going to be a bounce coming for Thursday, and this ended up playing out very nicely for almost every ticker out there that I called out, except for Tesla, but I will break down something about it. So, if you look at the charts, SPY closed very, very nicely, up almost 1%, closed green, right? We had IWM with a very, very nice push as well, up 0.59%. The QQQ pushed very nicely, up 1.4%. Nvidia pushed up as predicted. Same thing with Microsoft. AMD, as predicted, I was talking about 162.5 and then 165. Google was bullish, Amazon bullish close, Meta bullish close as predicted. So I called out this bounce for the market, guys. This played out very nicely, but Tesla was a little bit different relative to what I was expecting because I said this thing would likely bounce, and that was correct to some extent because Tesla closed yesterday around 215. We actually pushed up to 220. I was expecting it to test the 220 area. We got this push up during the pre-market. It did actually bounce, so the move did come that I called out, except it didn't hold, and this was a little bit ironic because we had Meta, Amazon, right? All these other tickers like Alphabet and SPY, the QQQ, Nvidia, Apple. They were all pushing, 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 holding up nicely, and then Tesla, of all things, ended up just collapsing and selling off. So that means Tesla is relatively weak from a technical standpoint. So I was hoping it would actually hold up a little bit better. It actually turned bearish, and that's a little bit ironic, a little bit unfortunate. I wasn't hoping that that would happen, but it is what it is. So this one was a little bit different from what I was expecting. I was right about Tesla gapping up and trying to push upwards. We did get a push initially, but then the move failed. Besides that, everything else I said about SPY, Nvidia, QQQ, all of this was correct. We got a big bounce, especially on SPY, and it looks like we're not done quite yet. So I'm going to break down more details about this. I want to talk about some data and such. For tomorrow, I just want to mention that at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report coming out. We have the 5-year inflationary expectations report, consumer expectations, inflationary expectations, and consumer sentiment all coming out at the same time. So watch and see what this data causes for high volatility at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is going to cause the market to either pump or dump, so watch it very carefully. Then after that, at 1 p.m., we have Barr from the Fed giving a speech. We also have Daly from the Fed giving a speech, so listen to what they have to say in case you're interested. This may cause some volatility, but I don't expect it to be that crazy. The large majority of data coming out tomorrow comes at 10 o'clock a.m. I'll be talking about this once it comes out as well. When it comes to more pieces of data, as a reminder for tomorrow, we have very minor earnings for as of right now for the end of the week. I mentioned that today we had TSM. This was better than expected, strong earnings. Texas Capital Bank was not so good. They missed. Guidance was weak for the Texas Capital Bank, but TSM had strong guidance. So very mixed earnings so far overall. However, for tomorrow, we have Ally Bank, Huntington, and then we have Fifth Third Bank and just a bunch of others after that. So watch those very carefully. I also want to mention that when it comes to SPY, we have about 2 million calls expiring for tomorrow. And we also have about 3.4 million puts expiring, which accounts for a 1.71 puts to call ratio. Now, with max pain being at 460, this could be adjusted tomorrow, but as of right now, there's a good chance that SPY is well above max pain. I don't think it's going to be adjusted to such a crazy extent where max pain just like increases by 15 points. I don't see that happening. Very unlikely. So there's a very good chance we're going to close above it, and there's a chance that market makers may try to squeeze shorts again. If I was a market maker, I might just try to screw over the put holders more than the call holders. With all the puts expiring, there's a chance the market may hold up very nicely. With the Fear and Greed Index, this is actually less fearful than before and more greedy. We're at 67. It was at 57 yesterday, a slight increase. Market momentum is very greedy. Other things are all on greed, even the puts and call positioning, as we're seeing puts being closed. And the VIX volatility has gone down to neutral as the VIX has fallen quite a bit. This is once again favoring the bulls a little bit more. So with that being said, what do I see on the charts for today? It's very simple, guys. When we look at the charts, I was right about pretty much everything except for like Tesla. We held up very, very nicely, got a nice bounce, very, very nice looking inverse head and shoulder structure on SPY. And we're going to be watching some tight resistance. So SPY is going to be pushing above 477. I don't think that's going to stop it. It looks very strong to me. But we have a very important resistance. We have 477.5 to 478 to be watching for. If we touch this, this is where we have some tight resistance because we had one, two, three, four, five or six rejections at 477.5 to 478. And this thing tends to get rejected up here. So you want to be very careful. So in order for us to remain bullish, we need to see SPY break 478, hold above it, and not get a big rejection like this within an hour, just like what we saw here. Within 1 hour, it needs to hold above this, and this is going to be a good sign. If it holds above 178, the next target is 480, and we're going to be approaching the all-time high. If we reject off 478, we could come down, just chop a bit, and come back down to these levels. So that's going to be very important. So those are resistance levels. For support, watch 476. If we lose that, there's minor support here. I don't really count on this holding that. Basically, 475 is next. And if we lose this, if 475 breaks, there's a very good chance it's going to come all the way down to about 473.5. That's going to be our next critical level. So just to clarify this, I want to actually redraw this just to make this simple to understand. 473.5 is very important support. This is where it bounced today now. So if we lose 475, there's going to be a risk of it coming back down there. So you're going to be watching these levels very closely. All right. So with that being said, what do I think SPY is going to do? We have resistance at 477. If we break above this, there's 477.5 to 478. And if we manage to break 478, which is going to be very tough, it's going to be pushing for 480. It's going to be monstrous. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be the all-time high for SPY. What do I think is going to happen? Well, I want to show you something. When you look at Aapl, basically, when I show you guys Aapl, it looks very bullish. I think Aapl is going to help this push higher. I think it's going to try to push for 477 to 478. I think it's going to hit the 478, try to shop around. I'm not sure if we're going to break 478 or kind of reject, since we did reject here many times. But I think it's going to test this, and then we're going to see some interesting price action. In the morning, I think I wouldn't be surprised if SPY kind of gaps down first, and then we push up when we open to about 478, shop around up here. I don't know if we're going to come back down, just shop, trade sideways, or if we end up breaking above it. If we do break it, we're going to be pushing even more. But ultimately, I do see some more upside coming. We just have to watch how it reacts to resistance. Why do I think SPY could push up more? Well, there's one reason. There are many reasons, but here's one of them. Apple stock is one of the main reasons because it's a little hard to see right here. I'm going to switch over to my Webull charts. And by the way, SPY looks very bullish on the daily. I didn't show that just yet. SPY is looking bullish, guys. I just wanted to mention that it looks very bullish on the daily. It's going to push up higher. Same thing on the 4-hour time frame. But Apple, going back to Apple, here's the reason why I think SPY could push up higher. When you zoom out of the chart, it's simple. Double bottom forming a W, and we have this gap to fill at 192. I think Apple's going to try to push to fill that gap. We look like we have more upside as we have a very, very bullish looking daily candlestick. It's very simple. It's as simple as that. It looks very strong. For Apple, watch support, excuse me, watch support at 188. If we lose that, we have 186.5. If that fails us, it'll come all the way down to 185 or so. And if that fails us, it's going to start sinking to 183.5. Those are some important levels. Resistance, watch 189. If that breaks, if it gets above 190, basically, that's going to be our next resistance. I think 192 is coming quite easily if we end up breaking that. So this looks like, if we just kind of like clear this chart out just a little bit, I just show you this. It looks like what my friends call a big fat George W. So it's a very colloquial term. I don't know if people use that, but it looks like a W basically. We had this head and shoulders, which led to a bounce, and now it's trying to break out, establishing a higher low. So this is bullish. It's trying to uptrend. It looks like it's going to get to these imbalances up here. So I'm seeing it potentially pushing up higher and trying to get back above 190 very, very soon. Apple is favoring the bulls. It's going to likely push up higher, which is going to help SPY and also the QQQ to some extent. The QQQ is uptrending very, very nicely, very strongly. We have support around 412. If we lose 412, watch 410 and then 408. For resistance, make sure you watch 414. If we break this, our next target is 415. Every dollar basically has resistance, and it's been treating every dollar level as resistance for the last couple of days. So watch that very carefully. In my opinion, the QQQ is uptrending strongly. I think that it might gap down and kind of retrace a little bit in the pre-market and then start pushing up higher, depending on what we get from the Michigan data. But I think the trend looks strong, and ultimately I could see it approaching 415 very soon and even higher than that. So it looks bullish right now. The QQQ may push up thanks to Apple. It looks very strong. Let me talk about Tesla, then Nvidia. For Tesla stock, Tesla is not looking that good, guys. So what happened to this? Let me double check this. Tesla's not looking that good, in my opinion, because of the fact that the market was pushing. Tesla should have pushed with the market. Instead, this thing was very weak from a technical standpoint, and that's despite the fact that I didn't really see that much bad news. But there was so much bad news that came out about price cuts. Fear about margins, Tesla destroying its own value according to analysts, and things like that. And it looks like it's still affecting Tesla. Now, if Tesla turns bullish, we have an imbalance to fill around 216. It's going to reach 216 if we manage to break above. I would say if it gets above like 213 at least. If we break above this 213.5 area, I think 216 is coming to fill this imbalance. If we fail to break 213 and we start selling off again, we're going to be watching this 208 to 209 area. If we lose that, basically there's very minor support around 208. That's like the level I was eyeing right now. If we fail at 208, I mean, Tesla's going to come all the way down to about 205. That's like our next really important support. If that fails us, there's minor support at 202. Then we have 200 as critical support. Overall, Tesla looks bearish. The trend is still very weak, but we haven't actually closed below 210 yet. It did lose 212, which is a bad sign. So we're going to be watching this. So if we break 213.5 tomorrow, it could push up to fill this imbalance at 216. If we fail to do so and we reject and then lose the low from yesterday, we have a risk of coming all the way down to potentially 205. I'm sorry, the low from today, not yesterday. The low from today, if we lose that, there's a risk of 205. We'll be watching it for now. It does look very weak. It looks like it might shop around between 210 and 212, but I want to see if Tesla can try to break 212. There might be an attempt to do so in the morning before it just chops around. In my opinion, it doesn't look too good. It's favoring the bears. We'll have to watch and see how Tesla does, but I see lots of sideways price action between these two ranges here, between 214 and 210. I don't really expect that much from it. It's looking very weak as of right now. We'll see if this changes tomorrow, but just to be clear, that's what I'm seeing for the time being. Nvidia got a nice push up, very, very beautiful push, all the way up to about 576. Yesterday, I predicted Nvidia would reach at least 570. We actually went a little bit higher than that, which is pretty insane. Then we came back down and pushed up again. So it's still holding up very nicely. If it breaks this resistance at 577, we're going to be looking at 580, then 582, and 585. For support, you're going to be watching 572, 570, and then these lower levels down here. So we'll be watching all of these very, very carefully just to see how things end up looking. And we'll see if this thing can pop even more. But as of right now, Nvidia is holding up very nicely. It is favoring the bulls a bit more, and this could actually help the market more. For support, once again, watch 570, watch 568. If we basically lose 565, that's when I would turn a little concerned if we fail to get a big bounce above that, because then we could come down to fill this gap around like 560 in these lower levels. So we'll be watching that as critical support, 570 and 565. Otherwise, I think that Nvidia is favoring the bulls, and there's a very, very good chance that it's going to continue to hold up. So with that being said, I also want to call out the VIX. I mentioned to everyone the VIX was likely going to drop today. Remember, I said that yesterday, and that's what happened today. The VIX came down quite a bit. We also haven't fully filled this gap down here. We haven't filled this gap. This is also forming kind of like a head and shoulders like structure on the hourly. And we also have another gap way down here around 12.7. So is the VIX about to get a big rejection, start coming down to fill these gaps? If that ends up being the case, especially if we lose around 13.5 on the VIX, it's going to likely fill the gaps, and that's going to be because of the market pumping. So this is telling us that there is potential for the stock market to pump more to drag the VIX down. So be very careful, guys. With that being said, I went over the large majority of the tickers out there. I just want to kind of close the video very quickly. Just to be clear, if you look at the IWM or the Russell 2000, looking kind of decent right now, not that strong. I could see an attempt for it to try to push towards 192 and then trade sideways. Not extremely strong, but I do see some potential. For Microsoft, I called out 392 to be tested. It's now trying to break out, so I think 394 will break, and we're going to be looking for a push towards 390. 395. If we break above that, we could get very close to 400. So it looks bullish. AMD, I told you all it's going to likely break 160. We actually broke 160 and pushed up towards 168. If we kind of hold up around here, since it's rejecting, I think it might retrace a bit towards 160, balance and close around 162. I think that it might retrace a bit more before it bounces, still holding up decently. Coinbase got some bad news. It's actually selling off now. Because it lost 126, our next target on this thing is potentially 118. We might see it test 118 then bounce, so watch that carefully as it's looking kind of bearish. For Google, it looks pretty decent. I called out 145 yesterday. That's actually exactly where we closed. It looks like it might push for 146.6 and eventually 147.5 for a slight push, a very, very slow one. It's not like extremely aggressive. Amazon has come up to fill this gap. We're talking about this gap to get filled on Amazon. Going to be looking for a push for 154.5. It could push a little bit more. And for Meta, since this thing is trying to break this high, watch 377. If that breaks, 380 is next. The daily looks bullish overall. With that being said, guys, thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully this video was helpful. I'm trying to make this video kind of quick, not trying to take too long since I have something else coming up. So with that being said, the charts are looking quite decent. We have some tight resistance coming, and we'll be watching to see how things go. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.